And rather than immediately dismissing a literal worldwide flood, just suppose that maybe, actually, that this is speaking of real events.
If the biblical stories in Genesis are literally true and historically accurate, you basically have to throw away geology and all the physics and chemistry and math and biology that it's built upon to embrace that view.
Finding the ark would indicate that God actually has intervened with man. And that has a profound impact. People that have thought this through are scared to death to find it to be true.
Then you realize if you do see these rotten timbers of this boat sticking out of the ancient optics of ice, it could change everything. It could change the whole perception of the Bible. It could change people's thought process about where they came from, who they are.
It's a story that most of us have heard since we were children. It's a cute little story. God decides one day to tell Noah to build an ark to save him and his family, and the animals that God will bring to him 2 by 2. The story is simple. It's fun. It's neat. It's clean, and it's safe, and it's not scary. The world in Noah's day was nothing like it is today. So when you really study the Bible, and you really think it all the way through, there is much more to Noah's story than what these simple children's stories tell us. Ancient records tell us that after the fall, Adam began to study all of Yahweh's creation, zealously searching for the messages that his Creator and Father placed within it. In his search, it is recorded that he discovered written in the stars a prophetic warning that he was compelled to pass on to his descendants, if they would only listen. A warning of coming judgment. We find recorded in the 1st century writings of Flavius Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, the following account of Adam's son Seth and his descendants. They also were the inventors of that peculiar sort of wisdom which is concerned with the heavenly bodies and their order, and that their inventions might not be lost before they were sufficiently known, upon Adam's prediction that the world was to be destroyed at one time by force of fire, and at another time by the violence and quantity of water, they made 2 pillars, the one of brick, the other of stone. They inscribed their discoveries on them both, that in the case the pillar of brick should be destroyed by the flood, the pillar of stone might remain, and exhibit those discoveries to mankind, and also inform them that there was another pillar of brick erected by them. In Genesis chapter 6, we find the first harbinger of Adam's prophesied coming of a cataclysmic destruction of the world by violent force and quantity of water. When Noah turned 500 years old, Yahweh said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Genesis 6:13. Yahweh then instructed Noah to build an ark that was large enough to not only save Noah and 3 of his sons and their wives, but also a representation of all the different kinds of animals that inhabited the earth. And God told Noah, Make an ark of gopher timbers for yourself. You shall make rooms in the ark, and you shall cover it with bitumen inside and out. You shall make it this way. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window in the ark, and you shall finish it above to a cubit. You shall set the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it with lower, second, and third stories. Genesis 6:14 through 16. There are just a lot of things that we don't know about the ark. It's just speculation. We don't really know what kind of shape the ark had. We don't really know what kind of wood was used to build the ark with. We don't know what kind of tools were used to build the ark with. We don't really know when Noah began to build the ark, and we really don't know if Noah and his sons built the ark by themselves, or if they had others helping them. And we don't really know how long it took for the ark to be built. But there are some things about the ark that we do know. We know the ark's basic dimensions. We know it was made out of some kind of wood called gopher wood. We know the builders had to use some kind of tools to build it with. We know that the ark was built when Noah was between 500 and 600 years old, and we know it had 3 internal levels, with rooms arranged somehow on each of those levels. We also know that it had a window system of some kind that was approximately 18 to 24 inches high, and we know it had a door of some kind somewhere in its side. Let's get a better idea how large Noah's ark would have been. The Bible tells us that the ark was to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits high, and 30 cubits wide. A cubit in the Bible was used as a standard form of measurement, typically based on the length of a man's forearm measured from his elbow to the tip of his middle finger, approximately 18 inches. We need to note, however, that a second type of cubit could have been used as well. Known as a royal cubit, this average measurement would have been closer to 24 inches in length. Using both the standard cubit and the royal cubit as our reference point, we discover that Noah's ark would have been somewhere between 450 and 600 feet in length, 75 to 100 feet high, and somewhere between 45 and 60 feet wide. In modern terms, Noah's ark would have roughly been the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. Most people have either seen pictures or watched movies that show us how big the Great Pyramid of Giza is. So let's use the pyramid as a visual reference point. The Pyramid of Giza is 147 meters tall. That's roughly 482 feet tall. If we stand the ark up on its end, we find that the ark would have been only 10 meters or 32 feet shorter than the pyramid, if using the standard cubit. Or it would have been 36 meters or 118 feet taller than the pyramid if we were using the royal cubit. For 100 years, Noah and his 3 sons faithfully worked on building the ark. All of its required fixturing, furniture, necessary equipment, tooling, storage, and provisions, all making careful and calculated preparations in anticipation of the coming day when Yahweh would direct Noah, his believing sons, their wives, and the many different animals that Yahweh would bring to him to enter the ark. The ark itself gradually became a visible symbol, a tangible prophetic message constructed in plain sight of an unbelieving and mocking world, faithfully carried out by the obedient hands of one man who chose to believe the word of Yahweh given to him, warning him that Yahweh's judgment was coming. At the appointed time, Yahweh unleashed a cataclysmic worldwide flood and destroyed the ancient world and all that lived upon it, except for his chosen remnant. The plans of rebellious man and rebellious angel were set back, and the slate of human history was wiped clean and reset. Our purpose in this presentation is not to examine any of the details concerning the flood, things such as the date and time frame mentioned in Genesis 7 concerning when the flood took place, or the mechanism and its sequence of the flood catastrophe itself, or the amount of time it rained or when the rain stopped, or how long the ark floated on the surface of the flooded world before it settled on the mountains of Ararat. All of those topics are reserved for another discussion. Hebrews 11:7 tells us, "By faith Noah, being warned of Yahweh of things not seen yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of righteousness, which is by faith." As I mentioned earlier, when Noah first built the ark, it served as both a visible and tangible prophetic message designed to warn the unbelieving world that Noah lived in, as well as a message of hope and a promise of deliverance to those who Yahweh set aside as his remnant. The questions that I want to ask, that I need to ask and explore, are, does Noah's ark still exist today? Has the ark been found? If it's been found, what should this discovery be telling us? Should those of us who are considered to be believers and followers of Jesus interpret this discovery as something significant? Should we consider this as a sign or a warning to the generation that we live in? Is it a signal that God is about to pour out his judgment upon the world and its unrepentant inhabitants once again for the final time? These are the questions I want us to have in the back of our minds as we move through the information that follows.
In the mid-1950s, Mount Ararat finally gave up its first 20th century physical clue to the Ark's existence and whereabouts. It was to be the beginning of a series of modern-day successes in cracking the secrets of the Ark. A French demolition engineer named Fernand Navarra first became interested in the Ark while serving in the military as a young man. Navarra began the first of a series of expeditions to Mount Ararat in 1952.
My Kurdish guides had abandoned me at the lower level of the mountain, and so I tried my best to proceed on my own. I was not able to find the Ark exposed, but I did see a massive dark shape frozen under the glacier ice. I knew then I would have to return to discover what it could be.
Navarra did return in July of 1955, accompanied by his young son, Raphael. What we see here is actual footage filmed by Fernand Navarra and his son during their expedition.
1955 was a warm year with the great glacial meltback. I know if I had a chance to reach the Ark, it would be now.
It was Raphael who first spotted something. Navarra carefully lowered himself deep into a crevasse at the 13,500-foot level.
The wood was easy to see, but was frozen into the ice. Still then, I had no idea how big it was.
What Navarra chopped from the ice was a 5-foot hand-hewn wooden beam.
I had dreamed of this. Raphael and I were excited like it was Christmas time. I tried to carry it down the mountain across my pack. It was very heavy. I could not keep my balance. We felt so bad that I had to cut the wood, but later I would have to cut it again to send out sample for testing.
A proud moment and fulfillment of a long-held wish. But was this actually wood from Noah's Ark? It was determined that the type of wood Navarra found does not grow near Mount Ararat. As a matter of fact, there's not a forest within 300 miles of the mountain. Navarra himself had the hand-hewn wood that he had found tested in 3 different laboratories. Now he was told that its age was about 5,000 years, clearly in line with the biblical account of the flood. The scientific tests proved beyond question that something very old, something very mysterious, was definitely on Mount.
Then they showed me this. The first piece we saw was the main structure. And it, from where I was standing, looked like a bluish colored rock. And then we come back a little bit and you could see in the end, you could see these lines which were beams in there. And then we were watching this and they showed me the one over here then. Now all the time we was up there, we never, I don't think there was 2 hours that we could see anything. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But then they showed me this here, and it was hard to tell which direction it was laid, because you couldn't even see the little beam that under the other ark is a beam. It goes, he says, from one end to the other, down below. And then if you over here and see this rock, it looks kind of like this, where the boards had separated, and this piece over here is the same way. They fit kind of like that. He took me out to a shed, and it was padlocked, and we had to go through a couple of buildings to get in there. And he had artifacts that he tells me that come out of the ark. Now, these articles that he had were petrified. He had some hasps, some door locks. He had one door off of a cage, or it was about 40 inches high and about 36 inches wide, or vice versa, whichever come off. And it was petrified, and it was full of blue moss. And that is, I suppose, everything in there, in the ark, has some of this moss on it. And he says when it first comes out in the spring, it's white, like an old man's whiskers. And as it stays out, or weathers, or gets sun, it will turn blue like the rest of it. He has carvels that come out of the living quarters, he said, that were hand-hewn and hand-carved. He has some shepherd staffs, crooks, whatever they're called, that are petrified. And one thing he told me, never to break anything on the ark. To these items that they have was when the ark broke in two. It's in two pieces now, so he told me. And when it broke in two, they found these artifacts, or parts, and they are very sacred, and they're preserved and well kept. He says everyone that goes there, that does see it, wants to break off some of it, and that is a no-no for them. And to this group, it is a very sacred and well, it's just
very holy relic.
Very holy. And they are trying to preserve it. He tells me that when the master comes, the light will shine over the ark. I had no idea. I knew lots of people went up there. I didn't know that so many people fail to see anything. But these people...
Harold Cummings has been looking for, he and Violet, this has been their project for 40-something years, and they have not even seen an actual photograph of it yet, not alone not see it. He's been on the mountain 17 times.
Now there are many down through history have seen it, and it's recorded in history.
Boss told me that something mysteriously went on for the simple reason papers, pictures, people vanished.
Right.
And that, he couldn't quite comprehend that.
It's true in history, and always there's
and in the ark,
that sort of thing has happened.
is a curse. 2 men got caught in a storm, and I think they were Austrians or something, in a bad storm. And they went inside to get out of the weather, and both of them, they had to be carried off the mountain. And he says, see, no touch. he was going to let me touch it.
Please, 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 please take note. The pictures and videos that are used in the remaining part of this presentation may or may not provide actual proof that the Ark of Noah has been found. It is simply information that has been gathered and compiled from sources that have conducted Ark research over the years. The following content belongs exclusively to the people that make up the organizations Ark Insight of the Netherlands and the Hong Kong-based NAMI, Noah's Ark Ministry International, that have conducted and made available to the public for viewing this information. And it is only being presented here to help increase the awareness of the existence of this material and to educate and hopefully encourage people to explore these resources themselves. There is no authoritative consensus to the truth, to the veracity, and the validity of this information, and explorations continue to be scheduled and conducted by many other highly qualified teams on other parts of Mount Ararat. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. Genesis 8:4. Where is this mountain called Ararat? First, let's answer the question of where the mountain called Ararat is. Many people today have no idea where Mount Ararat is really located. Mount Ararat is situated in the modern-day country of Turkey. Specifically, Mount Ararat is located on Turkey's eastern border with Armenia and on Iran's most extreme northwestern border. It is known as Arida, the place of descent, and the mountain of pain.
Arida, Mount Ararat, Eastern Turkey. How about a visit to an old wooden building that our common ancestor made? Noah's Ark again visible. Noah's Ark in a high mountain lake. Never before in modern history so much ice has been melting away from the ice sheet of Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey than in the summer of 2021. This caused extraordinary mud streams at the foot of the mountain and was a spectacle for people to watch. Turkish news media reported on the extreme meltdown of ice with reports from mountaineers and drone video footage. The drone video had a big surprise in store because for the first time video footage reveals the great change that has taken place in an obscure hidden valley high up Mount Ararat in the Red Gorge. Could this be that obscure small hidden valley that Ark searchers have been looking forward to for so long? From the level of Campsite 2 at 4,200 meter altitude and the Federal Climbers Route, it is almost impossible to have a good view at the remote valley in question, though from further away and even from street level at the foot of the mountain, like from off the Auto Freeway E80, this valley can be observed very well via, for example, binoculars or a spotting scope. The reason why this valley is so difficult to observe from the immediate area is made clear in the report of Jacob Chutjan when he stated, quote, "The ledge on which the ark rests is surrounded by the other three sides by walls of rock," unquote. This particular area of interest for ark researchers has changed dramatically during the hot summer of 2021. In this remote mountain valley, a meltwater lake appeared due to a large flood of meltwater that came down from the terrain above. Now, many pieces of the Ark search puzzle fall into place. The video revealed that there is at least one suspicious looking object on the edge of the lake, which looks to be a man-made structure 1943 eyewitness of the Ark Ed Davis stated, quote, "All I can say is that it was big. It looked like a large ocean-going vessel." Unquote. This gives us reason to believe that our suspicious-looking object in the drone video is just a small broken-off part of the much larger remarkable object right behind it. Is this not what many of the eyewitnesses of the Ark have reported? Noah's Ark in a high mountain lake? Please judge for yourself by what you see and what eyewitnesses have reported in the past. An eyewitness stated that the Ark was on a precipice and about 75 feet from the drop-off in a little valley. It had been partly dismantled. The upper part had additions that looked like a railing or roof that was in extreme disrepair. Let's take another close-up look at our object of interest. In its direct vicinity there are some more objects of interest, as indicated in the next pictures. Our main object of interest and other objects of interest. Another question, is there any clue or indication that points in the direction that this could be actually a wooden structure? Yes, there is. Especially at the rear end, there appear to be some protrusions, like protruding timbers, which may indicate that we are dealing with a part broken off from another wooden part. Is this what eyewitness Ed Davis saw in 1943 and was talking about much later in his life? When Ed stated, "Timbers are sticking out, kind of twisted and narrowed." Let's take a look at a few satellite photos to see the situation of the mantle of ice upon our target area of interest. This Google Earth photo is from the end of July 2005 and we see a lot of ice, close to the drop-off also. The next one is from the 19th of August 2009 and again there's still a lot of ice over there. And this photo of the 29th of July 2015 shows that much of the ice mantle has melted away already, and one very hot month still to come, the month of August. By zooming in on this satellite photo, interesting features appear to be at the back end of where our covered up with ice object of interest is located. The ledge the object sits on is approximately 100 meters wide and helps us to estimate the dimensions of the object, which is at the front about 25 meters wide. Most eyewitnesses stated that only a small portion of the Ark was visible on the edge of a steep drop-off, and they all speak of the same kind of things they have seen. This is another close-up photo of that drop-off, where our object of interest is located. From the normal track where everyone finds Ararat, this drop-off is easy to observe. But our object of interest just isn't, because it is just around the corner, so to speak, and then down below. So passers-by never get to see it. And we learned from eyewitness accounts that until now, the Ark has only been visible for about 30 days a year, and then only at the end of very hot summer seasons. Hence, in the center of this beautiful overview photo of the Red Gorge, We have the meltwater stream, the big waterfall, the drop-off, but just not our object of interest. An eyewitness said the object sat at the very top of a pie-shaped area, on the left side of a grayish area. The ledge the object sits on is shaped like an upside-down fishhook. It is on an imbricate fold or ledge, a sort of stair-stepped area. There's a small raised area above the foredeck. It looked like a big rectangular barge-type construction protruding from the mountain. It was situated in a horseshoe depression and was clearly man-made. The object appears to sit in a small basin, which was situated in a larger basin. It was slightly tilted to one side. Eyewitness Ed Davis said that when he first looked, he thought he was looking at a large brownish-black rock, but after looking carefully he saw the details they described. He clearly saw 3 levels, broken timbers and other details. It was lodged in a large crevasse and was butted up against a rock wall inside the crevasse. Other eyewitnesses stated it seemed to be banked. It appeared to be hanging 40 or 30 degrees down the mountain. The north end of the structure was higher than the south end, and the entire thing was tilted about 30 degrees. It extended from north to south. One side was on the edge of a steep cliff. The nose was flat in front. It is slightly tilted to the left side. Parts of the front are missing. It is surrounded by the other 3 sides by walls of rock. The big question is Noah's Ark again visible? Hopefully soon we'll know for sure. A large wooden building lies embedded in a glacier in a gorge high upon Mount Ararat, and by many believed to be nothing less than the Ark of Noah. These live images you're watching right now were taken during the NAMI years. NAMI stands for Hong Kong-based Noah's Ark Ministries International. For some years, around 2009, a Turkish-Chinese exploration team entered this colossal ancient wooden building in the bottom of a deep gorge high on Arada, as is the official Turkish name for Mount Ararat. Through openings in the bottom of the gorge, 2 mountain guides found their way in. They explored and video filmed a corridor and doorway leading to a gigantic wooden building. How did this wooden colossus get here at this height? Covered up by a thick layer of stones, ice and rock debris. Once inside, the guide is pointing out the presence of narrow openings in a wooden sidewall. For most part, these openings are full of ice. Parts of this sidewall are covered with a thin layer of crystal clear ice. To the left, some wooden boards will become visible. A typical recognizable sound is produced by knocking on the wood by the guide. Very interesting and surprising is that these boards are connected to each other by means of a very smart and safe system of internal pegs. The headlights of the guides do not produce enough light to have a good look into the hallway, but fortunately some photos were taken so that we can amaze ourselves about the space behind these boards. Observations Archaeological Discovering Mount Ararat Part 2. The headlights of the guides do not produce enough light to have a good look into the hallway, but fortunately some photos were taken so that we can amaze ourselves about the space behind these boards. This original photo will reveal some most interesting details. At first, a corridor and doorway are observed, as well as a sloping floor. The doorway is seemingly provided with at least one door. Please take note of a row long narrow openings in the wall at the right hand side. These openings may be intended for air circulation within the building. Every single of these narrow openings is said to be about 1 meter wide. Interesting phenomena are the crystal clear ice shapes along the walls and in the center above and in the door passage. Thin plates of crystal clear ice are sticking from out of both walls at several levels. The wall at the left side is seemingly provided with several support beams. The corridor appears to have a sloping floor. What an amazing find, embedded in a glacier, in a good state of preservation, hidden in a deep gorge high upon Mount Ararat. Clearly visible is the wood grain of these boards in front of the guide. Breathing is not easy above the 4,000 meter level high upon Mount Ararat. There's wood all around the guide on all sides. The left wall also is provided with an opening, but this one is full of crystal clear ice, which allows the guide to look further inwards into another compartment. Please notice the thickness of these boards below and beautiful grain of the wood. It all looks and sounds solid. It strongly gives the impression that this is really an ancient wooden structure. What a special experience and privilege to have a look inside this amazing wooden building. An interesting point is that while the wood grain of these boards is clearly visible, this does not apply to the wood of the outer wall on the right hand side. Looking through the clear ice, it appears that this wall is coated with a black shiny substance. Ice from the glacier enters through an upper opening. Guides leaving this location for visiting a next entrance. Especially during the summer months, the bottom of the gorge is a very dangerous area for a human to be, actually life-threatening because of the many stone avalanches during the day. The guides descending into another space. The entrance is a narrow opening. In this space also there are loose fallen boards and beams all around. Observing a variety of wreckwood, these mountain guides recognize it immediately as belonging to the same three-story wooden building that was discovered sometime earlier. This ancient wooden colossus must have ended up here, because it's completely out of place. The main structure is believed to be broken into at least 3 big parts, possibly caused by earthquakes and the enormous powers of the moving glacier within the gorge. So far, more than 14 entries have been discovered on the bottom floor of the gorge leading to the building. Parts of the wood are petrified, some parts are rotten, while other parts are in remarkable good shape. And everything shows signs of handcrafted wood. Loosened wood parts reveal several types of construction techniques of a very high and ingenious quality. Different types of wood joinery is observed and captured on video, like mortise and tenon, tongue and groove, and pegs. Also in this space, parts are treated with a black shiny substance, like the beam at the right. Few rectangular openings are observed in the wall at the right-hand side. Guides lowering themselves into another space. Please take note of the white boards in the background. Rectangular holes in a beam indicate that they were once fitted with slats or tenons. The application of such white blanks connected to each other by a system of internal pegs is truly amazing. Yes, the snow-capped Arada, Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey, contains a colossal wooden building, very well preserved in the cold of an icy glacier at the bottom of a gorge. Estimated length 100 meter plus. In spite of the fact that parts of the construction have become separated by the force of nature elements, it is clear that its construction is of a very high and ingenious workmanship. The location of this archaeological site has been rediscovered in June 2008 by the local mountain guide Ahmet Ertuğrul, also known by his nickname Parachute. Since 2010, these archaeological sites are under protection and investigation of the Turkish authorities, with involvement of a large group of highly classified scientists. In 2010, press conferences were held by NAMI in Hong Kong, Beijing and in the Netherlands to share the news of this great discovery with the international community. Unfortunately, the news was overshadowed by false reports on the internet that the discovery was a hoax and a self-created movie set. Please judge for yourself. Guides leaving this location for visiting another one. A few original photos and highlights from this video. A beautiful hand-carved bag. A black shiny substance on beam. Little holes at narrow side of shelves. Beautiful wood grain. Mortises, holes on a row in a beam in which other wooden parts fits. White planking. Boards connected through internal peg system. And mortises.
Yeah。嗱，我見到兩邊都係牆係木，但係下邊咧，下邊係咪木嚟咧？我都見到側邊嗰啲都係木嚟嘅。呢個都係水坑位嚟嘅。
我已經進入咗方舟嘅遺骸嘅內陸。我見到嘅咧就係一條木嘅樓梯，呢度係一條木嘅樓梯，聽唔聽到有木聲？好，我帶大家再望上去上邊，見唔見到一條木？呢度一條木，呢度嗱一條差唔多成2-3米嘅長木。
Another entrance leads to a small space. The mountain guides, equipped with a video camera, took safety measures by wearing protective clothing, masks, and by using a rope. What these men observed and video filmed was every time surprising and very astonishing. Large and heavy-looking loose boards, provided with little square or round holes on their narrow sides for the use of connection packs and pins.
Finding the ark would indicate that God actually has intervened with man, and that has a profound impact. People that have thought this through are scared to death to find it to be true.
Then you realize, if you do see these rotten timbers of this boat sticking out of the ancient optics of ice, it could change everything.